Exposed, the incredible journey of a billionaire who discovered love in a heartwarming kiss. Jake Ellis stared out his office window on the 47th floor, gazing over the sprawling city of San Francisco. He was a billionaire, a titan of tech, with a world that glittered like gold. But deep down, amidst the parties filled with laughter and the hollow cheers of fake friends, there was an aching void that gnawed at his soul. The stark truth hit him harder than any stock market crash. He was incredibly alone. His phone rang, a shrill call that shattered the impeccable silence of his empty office. The voice on the other end was coarse, a rough reminder of a past long buried. "Jake, it's your dad. He had a heart attack." The words hung heavily in the air, pulling him back to the small town where he grew up, a place he had abandoned for the allure of wealth and success. With a reluctant sigh, Jake hopped on a plane, memories flooding back like relentless waves. His childhood home was small, nestled among worn-down streets and familiar faces. But as he returned, he was met with disbelief, eyebrows raised, whispers clouding the air. Former friends eyed him with resentment, their stares sharp enough to cut through the facade of luxury he had donned for so long. "Look who finally came back," a voice called out, dripping with bitterness. It was Mike, his old baseball buddy, now burdened with the struggles of small-town life. Jake shuffled through the tight crowd, his heart heavy, every step weighed down by the stark contrast of his gilded life against their shattered dreams. The reunion hit him like a punch to the gut, but amid the discomfort, there was Sarah. She stood there, the familiar smile softening, a beacon of warmth in the chilling atmosphere. This woman, now a dedicated nurse, represented everything Jake had lost: authentic connections grounded in shared history. As their eyes locked, time seemed to pause, the crowded room blurred into the backdrop of their forgotten memories. But reality crashed back in. The community was struggling. The factory closure had devastated families, including Sarah's brother who had just lost his job. As whispers of gentrification layered the town with resentment, Jake felt the divide between his life and theirs grow wider. This wasn't just a homecoming, it was an awakening. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Jake decided to leverage his tech prowess, proposing solutions that he thought could save the town. But the resistance was palpable. The community's distrust turned his good intentions into a bitter reminder of his wealth's impact, amplifying feelings of loss that seeped into every exchange. There he stood, in front of the crowd, heart pounding, as he realized the desperate need for genuine connection and understanding that couldn't be bought. As he bared his soul, pouring out the truth of his journey, emotions swelled among the townspeople. He could see the flicker of doubt adjusting with hints of empathy. But in that moment, amidst tear-streaked faces and crossed arms, hope flickered in Sarah's eyes. It was fragile, yet illuminating, and as they shared a kiss, a promise brewed between them. Would Jake find a way to bridge the chasm between past and present, and would the community embrace him as one of their own once more? The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Jake. He immersed himself in the town's needs. He visited the factory site, which had become a ghostly reminder of better days. It sat lifeless, surrounded by weeds, its broken windows reflecting the shattered dreams of the workers who once clocked in with hope. "Why do you care now?" A worker, grizzled and suspicious, challenged as Jake walked through the lot. "You think you can just waltz in and fix everything with your money?" Jake felt a knot twist in his stomach. "No, it's not just about money. It's about all of us. I used to be one of you." His voice cracked, eliminating any barriers he had tried to build. "I was proud of this town once. I want to help us all bring it back." Frustration manifested on the faces around him. He was an outsider. The glaring truth lingered. He couldn't just erase years of neglect with words or flashy ideas. That evening, He met with Sarah at the cafe, their town's heart. The small space buzzed with chatter and the smell of coffee. She could see the weariness etched on his features. "You're trying, Jake. But don't take it personally if they don't see it yet," she said, her warmth offering him a moment as comfort. "I just thought I could use what I learned." I thought maybe he paused, long enough for doubt to settle on his brow. Would it work? She reached across the table, her fingers brushing against his. "It will take time. You should show them you're here for the long haul." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of her words sink in. He needed to embody the change he wanted to spark. After some silence, he asked, "Sarah, if I'm going to do this, I need you by my side." Her eyes sparkled with surprise, framed by a hint of concern. "You think it will be that easy? We have so much to sort through between us." "I know. And I want to fight for you too, for what we had." His longing was palpable, transforming the air between them into a tangible force. Her gaze softened. "We just have to make sure this isn't just about us rediscovering something. It needs to be for everyone." A new resolve stirred within him. Jake started making plans for a town hall meeting, determined to listen instead of imposing. Together with Sarah, they spread the word, inviting not only the townsfolk but also erstwhile skeptics. When the day arrived, he stood in front of a small crowd gathered in the local gym. The air felt charged with anticipation and skepticism alike. As he took a deep breath, Jake looked into familiar faces. Fear and resentment, mixed with curiosity, stared back at him. "What if you and I, all of us together, what if we could create something new here?" Jake's heart raced as he spoke, the urgency of his dreams spilling out. As he shared his vision, hope crept into their expressions. Jake could almost hear the whisper of their past. Together they had fought challenges before. But would history repeat itself? Suddenly, a deep voice called from the back. "And how is this time different, Jake? How can we trust you?" The room fell silent, and he understood. It was time to become not just a leader but part of the community again. Trust has to be earned. "I'm willing to put in work, not just words." From the corner of his eye, he noticed Sarah nodding, her belief in him shining through her support. With her by his side, he felt stronger, like a bridge between two worlds. And as his fellows lined the bleachers, Jake sensed a flicker of change starting to unfold. But just as he finished speaking, a familiar face stepped forward. It was Mike, the old friend whose resentment still simmered beneath the surface. "What do you really want, Jakey? This town doesn't need another savior." Jake's heart dropped. Was this going to blow up in his face? Could he even convince Mike, let alone the others? As the room held its breath, Jake realized that if he was going to succeed, he needed more than hope. He needed commitment, courage, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of vulnerability. The stakes had never been higher. The journey was only just beginning. Would he have the courage to not only face his past but tackle the weight of expectations now looming over him? The tension in the gym was thick enough to cut with a knife. Jake felt every set of eyes, every breath, weighing on his shoulders. Mike's challenge echoed in his mind, like a drumbeat that refused to fade away. How could he convince them? How could he convince Mike? "I know this town is hurting," Jake said, his voice rising slightly. "I've seen it. I've felt it. I'm not here to save anyone. I'm here to be with you, to work alongside you, to share this burden." A murmur spread through the crowd, a shift in the air that felt almost electric. He could see some faces soften, others still set in stone. "I'm asking for your trust," he said, "but trust starts with honesty. And here's the truth. I was scared to come back. I thought I could forget, but this town, it's a part of me." Jake met Mike's gaze directly, feeling the weight of their shared history. "And I know I've made mistakes. I can't change what happened in the past, but I can show you I'm willing to make it right now." Every eye seemed to anchor onto him. For a moment, silence. Then he heard a faint voice from the back. "Maybe we should give him a chance." Was it hope? Or merely a suggestion of desperation? Whatever it was, it ignited a flicker of resolve within him. While his heart raced, he reached for that flicker, letting it guide him. "I want to bring back our joy," he said, his voice stronger now. "I want this place filled with laughter, thriving businesses, and most importantly, a sense of community again. Let us start by building something together. The swelling applause caught him off guard. A part of him feared it was just a courtesy clap, but there was something else, there's something genuine. Sarah's smile shone through the crowd, encouraging him to keep pushing. He turned to her, and their eyes locked for a moment. In that instant, he saw not only love but hope reflected back at him, the possibility of what could lie ahead if they all worked together. Yet, there was still a lingering shadow in the room. Mike lingered at the edge, arms crossed, eyes hard. His skepticism was palpable, but Jake felt a flicker of determination. He spoke intentionally, it's not going to be easy. Change never is. I can't promise perfection, but I can promise dedication. With a hesitant movement, Mike stepped closer. The crowd fell silent again, and the weight of anticipation hung between them. You want to prove yourself? He challenged, his voice low. Then lead us into this. Show us.
Don't just talk about it.
Jake's heart raced again, but this time, it wasn't out of fear. It was the rush of challenge. I'm ready for that, he replied, the words tumbling out fast. I want to set up community projects, host events that showcase our talent, bring back what used to make us proud. The stir in the crowd grew louder. This time, it was not just murmurs. Some people nodded, others shared glances filled with uncertainty. Yet, there was a flicker of recognition, a shared history, a glimmer of trust. But just as he felt the crowd begin to rally, Mike's voice cut through again like a blade. And, if it doesn't work? What then? Another empty promise? The silence felt crushing. Everyone waited, expectant. Jake looked deep inside, feeling the weight of the moment. In that case, Jake answered, I'll step back and let you all decide what happens next. But if it fails, it won't be because of a lack of effort or heart. The sincerity hung in the air, and Jake felt on the edge of a breakthrough. There was a chance, however slim, that he could weave his dreams into this fabric they all shared. Just then, Sarah stood and spoke out, her voice steady and clear. If there's anything I've learned, it's that sometimes we have to confront what scares us most to build something beautiful. Maybe we can all help each other face those fears. An unexpected ripple of applause erupted, lifting the atmosphere. But as Jake looked at Mike, the fire in his eyes remained unyielding. The stakes still felt impossibly high. Let us meet again, Mike finally said, but this time, I want to see real plans. Actual steps. If you're committed, prove it. Jake nodded, heart pounding with hope and trepidation. It was a start. As the crowd began to disperse, Jake stood there for a moment, absorbing everything. That flicker of change was still alive. And he couldn't shake the feeling that his biggest battles were yet to come. What if Mike's challenge was just the beginning? Could he really convince his old friend and the community to believe in him? As uncertainty loomed, a question lingered in his mind. Was he prepared to face what lay ahead, the hidden struggles that could either bind them together or tear them apart? Jake's heart thundered in his chest as he stepped out of the gym. The air outside was cool against his skin, a stark contrast to the suffocating heat of the moments before. He could still hear murmurs buzzing in the distance, the weight of their anticipation hanging in the atmosphere. People were willing to listen, but would they really rally behind him? His breath came easier in the open air, but doubt crept in like an uninvited shadow. He leaned against the wall, staring into the dimming dusk. Sarah approached slowly, her expression a blend of admiration and concern. You did well in there, she said softly, brushing his arm. You made them feel something. Yeah, maybe, he replied, shaking his head. But what if it's not enough? What if Mike and the others aren't ready to take that leap with me? Sarah stepped closer, her warmth grounding him. You're asking them to believe in change, yours and theirs. It's a big request. I want to help. To show them it's possible. There's a spark, she insisted, her eyes bright with conviction. If you keep feeding that spark, it could become a fire. Jake smiled faintly, but knew the road ahead was filled with uncertainty. We'll meet again, but I have to come back with something real. If I don't, they'll lose faith. Her hand found his. You want to lose them?
Not now.
Just promise you'll take care of yourself, too. Something in her voice stirred a deeper resolve within him. He wanted to reassure her, to instill confidence. I'm going to put together a plan. Get some folks involved, brainstorm ideas, figure out what we can create together. That's the spirit, she said, encouraging him with that radiant smile. But as he started walking away, a thought nagged at him. What if his plan, his hopes, were not enough to thaw the ice that had built up over the years? The next few days passed in a blur. Jake met with locals, each discussion fuller than the last. He picked the brains of shop owners, artists, and teachers. It felt productive. Ideas blossomed like wildflowers after a rain, but doubt still clung to him like a dark cloud. When he finally compiled a tangible plan, it weighed heavily in his bag. He had scheduled a repeat meeting for the following week, but couldn't he shake the feeling that Mike would still be a wall to climb, an obstacle he had to overcome. Later that night, Jake sat at the kitchen table, flicking through sketches and notes. Sarah arrived with coffee in hand, her presence a steadying force. "What have you got?" she asked, looking at the scattered pages. "It's a start," he said, gesturing to the notes. "Community gardens, talent shows, art walks, events that can inspire a sense of pride. Those all sound amazing. You're going to get them excited." "I hope so," he replied quietly. "But what if it still doesn't draw them in? What if they don't see the value?" "Then you show them. Every artist starts with a rough draft," she said, leaning closer. "You're creating something beautiful, and it's not going to happen overnight." He smiled at her confidence, but struggled to contain the fears bubbling within him. What if it all crumbled before he had the chance to lift it? Days turned into sleepless nights as he meticulously prepared. The impending meeting loomed like a thunderstorm waiting to break. An uneasy feeling danced in his chest. Then, just before the meeting, Jake received a call that rattled his carefully constructed world. The unmistakable voice of Mike came through, heavy with gravel and uncertainty. "We need to talk. I've been thinking about our last conversation." Jake's heart stopped, the weight of the future hanging precariously in the balance. "What do you want to discuss?" "Meet me at the diner. We have some important things to hash out." The gravity of those words rushed through him. This could change everything. As he drove to the diner, his hands tightened around the steering wheel. Was Mike finally ready to see him as an ally? Or would this be an ending? Jake glanced at the diner's flickering sign as he pulled up. Was he ready for the conversation that could either open new doors or slam them shut? Jake stepped into the diner, the bell above the door jingling as it closed behind him. The familiar scent of greasy burgers and fresh coffee wrapped around him like an embrace, but the warmth didn't reach his core. He spotted Mike in the corner booth, his jaw clenched, eyes shadowed. This wasn't a reunion. It felt like a confrontation. As Jake approached, he noticed the tension radiating from Mike. There was no warmth, no friendly gesture. Just a hard stare that cut through the noise of the diner. Jake slid into the booth opposite Mike, a sense of foreboding settling in. "Thanks for meeting me," Jake said, trying to inject some lightness into the air. Mike grunted, his eyes flickering with a mix of skepticism and something deeper.
"I've thought about what you said about the change."
"The community projects."
"Yeah."
"I put together some ideas," Jake said, spreading his notes across the table, each one representing his hopes and dreams for the place they called home. He watched as Mike leaned back, arms crossed, surveying the papers as though they were a map to an unfamiliar territory. "Do you really think that's enough?" Mike challenged, raising an eyebrow. "You think people are just going to jump on board because you think it's a good idea?" "Not just me. Together, we can create something," Jake replied, his voice steady despite the anxiety surging within. "I believe they want to reclaim what we once had." Mike was silent for a moment, his gaze hardening. "You don't know what it's like, do you? You haven't lived through the hard times like the rest of us. This isn't just about ideas. It's about trust, and we don't trust." A lump formed in Jake's throat. Was Mike right? Had he really lived a life that was so different?
"I know.
But I'm trying to build that trust," he said, pouring his heart into each word. "This isn't just for me, it's for all of us. I want to see our community flourish." Mike's eyes softened briefly, but he quickly shielded his vulnerability. And what if it all fails? What if you rally everyone up and it crumbles? People will blame you for dragging them into another dead end. Jake flinched, but pushed through the heaviness. I'll take that risk, but I need your help. I can't do it alone, and I can't ignore the chance for change just because I'm scared of failing. Why should I trust you? Mike's voice was quieter now, yet still edged with doubt. Because I'm here, willing to put everything on the line. I'm asking you to join me, Jake said, leaning forward. This isn't just a plan on paper. It's a lifeline. There was a moment of fragile heartbeat where Mike seemed to teeter on the edge of decision. But then the walls went back up. He glanced away, discomfort etched across his face. Look, Jake. I appreciate your passion, but I don't know if I can make that jump. His words hung in the air like a tightening knot. Jake felt the weight of disappointment wash over him. Was this the end? He'd expected resistance, but had hoped for something more. Before he could gather his thoughts, Mike continued, but his voice faltered as he met Jake's gaze again. There might be a way to start something small. A way to test the waters. Hope sparked in Jake's heart, as uncertain as it felt. So you're willing to help? I don't know if I can fully commit yet, Mike replied slowly, but maybe we can work on something together. A first step. As they spoke, an almost palpable shift took root, an ember igniting despite the shadows cast by doubt. They began brainstorming hesitantly, discussing small ways to engage with the community. With each idea shared, it felt like the walls were crumbling, brick by brick. But deep down, Jake knew this was just the beginning of a more significant journey. As they finished their coffee and exchanged tentative camaraderie, a question lingered in Jake's mind. Could this partnership be enough to bridge the gap? Jake left the diner with a mix of hope and fear, wondering if Mike's hesitant agreement would lead to something greater or if it would all fall apart like so many dreams before. The hum of the diner faded as Jake stepped outside, the cool air hitting him like a splash of cold water. He inhaled deeply, letting the freshness clear the remnants of anxiety the conversation had stirred within him. Hope flickered in his chest, but doubt crowded in. Could he really change anything? The sky was a soft blue as Jake walked through the familiar streets, each step grounding him in the reality of his past and the uncertain future ahead. Faces he recognized passed him by, some wore smiles, others frowns, but most were lost in their own world. Jake longed for connection, for the trust they once had in each other, for the vibrant community that had once thrived. He turned a corner and stumbled upon the old community center. Its peeling paint and broken windows told stories of neglect. This place used to be alive with laughter, with kids running around and families gathering. Ignoring the creeping weariness settling over him, Jake approached the building. This could be a place to start. If they could revive even one small thing, it might spark the trust he was seeking. Over the next few days, Jake pulled together a small team for his project. He reached out to others who felt the same, a few from his old neighborhood, some who had worked alongside him as kids. While Mike was still cautious, he agreed to help enlist volunteers. Slowly, they began clearing the trash and weeds surrounding the center, revealing the bones of something people might believe in again. Sweat poured down Jake's brow, but he pushed through, fueled by the hope that this time, things could change. One afternoon, while they were unloading supplies, a familiar face wandered by. Lisa, an old friend from high school, paused to watch them.
Jake?
She called, a smile breaking across her face.
Lisa. Wow, it's good to see you.
His heart lifted at the sight of her, memories flooding back of laughter and shared dreams. What is going on here? She asked, glancing at the bags of paint and tools. We're trying to bring this place back to life, Jake replied, noting the spark of interest in her eyes. Would you want to help? Lisa hesitated. I've been meaning to get involved in something, but I'm not sure if I can commit. Things have been rough. For a moment, they simply stood there, uncertainty thick between them. But Jake saw the flicker of hope beneath her skin. You know, nothing good ever comes without a little risk. We're all taking a chance here. The warmth of her smile faded slightly, but she nodded slowly. All right, count me in. As they worked together, the atmosphere shifted. More people started to join them, drawn by their shared vision. The buzz of chatter filled the air, laughter interspersed with the sounds of labor. Hope was becoming contagious. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jake stood back, eyeing the community center. Though still a long way from finished, it felt invigorating. He shared a glance with Mike, who had been working alongside him more than he initially expected. There was a bond forming, built on sweat and shared purpose. But even amidst this energy, a nagging worry lurked in the background. What if the same old problems resurfaced? What if they fell short, lost trust all over again? As Jake lingered in the moment, a strong resolve took shape within him. They were gathering momentum, but he knew they needed more than just surface-level change. They needed to reach deeper. Just as that thought settled, Mike approached him, gaze serious. "We need to talk about what happens when we open the doors. If we're really going to do this, we have to be prepared." Jake's heart sank. What was looming felt bigger than the plans laid out before them, an impending storm that could unravel everything they had built. "Yeah, we do," Jake agreed, the weight of the challenge ahead settling in. As the sun slipped away, casting shadows over the center, he felt the urgency of the journey ahead. What if this was the moment that could make or break them? The next morning, a curtain of cloud drifted across the bright sky, wrapping the town in a muted gray. Jake felt the grayness seep into his bones as he sipped his coffee, glancing at the half-finished murals coming to life on the community center walls. A part of him thrummed with excitement. Another part, heavier and darker, weighed him down. "Big day today," Mike said as he joined Jake at the small table outside the diner. "We should probably lay out some plans. Define our roles." "Right," Jake replied, attempting to shake off his gloom. The thought of roles felt too rigid for the kind of work they had started. But Mike's practicality was a comfort, a grounding force he was beginning to appreciate. They spent the next hour jotting down ideas and responsibilities. Each suggestion seemed to elevate the mood. They talked about activities they could host to bring in more community members, movies in the park, art classes, even a small farmer's market in the center's parking lot. "Communities thrive on connection," Jake said, a hint of passion creeping into his voice. "If we can give them something to come together for, we're on the right track." Just then, Lisa appeared, her hair slightly damp from the morning drizzle and her hands tucked into her jacket pockets. There was a determined light in her eyes that brightened the overcast day. "What are you two plotting?" she asked, teasingly. Mike chuckled. "Just figuring out how to take over the world, one community center at a time."
Count me in for that.
Lisa laughed with a sparkle that warmed Jake's chest. Yet, the apprehension from last night lingered. As they began their tasks, the day turned out to be more productive than Jake had anticipated. New faces came and went, offering help and encouragement. They painted walls lush colors, repaired broken windows, and slowly, hope blossomed amidst the weariness. It was as if the community center was drinking up the effort, absorbing the fresh paint and enthusiasm like a parched plant. Later that afternoon, Jake climbed a ladder to paint the highest corner of the building. With each stroke, memories flashed through his mind. Birthday parties, summer camps, and late-night meetings with friends that stretched into dawn. All the laughter felt like whispers urging him onward. But at that very moment, he heard a sudden shout from below. "Watch out!" Jake's heart raced. He turned just in time to see a paint bucket, dislodged accidentally, teetering dangerously on the edge of the ladder. He lunged to catch it, his grip slipping. In a swift, surreal moment, everything slowed. He felt the weight of the bucket. He felt the sharp edge of the ladder beneath him. But more importantly, he felt the chill of dread creeping up his spine at the thought of failing. Then Lisa's arms were around his waist, pulling him down just before he lost his balance completely. The bucket tipped, splattering paint everywhere on the ground, on the fresh mural, and even on Jake's shirt. But he was safe, in Lisa's embrace. They both stood there for a moment frozen. Jake's heartbeat quickened in a way he hadn't expected. It wasn't just about the fall, it was something deeper. As her eyes met his, tension coiled around them like a vine. "Are you okay?" she asked, breathless, still holding him tight. Yeah, thanks to you. Jake managed to chuckle, a mixture of embarrassment and gratitude flooding through him. But then he noticed how close they were, the warmth of her body grounding him in that moment. Something shifted between them, an unspoken connection crackling in the air. Just then, an enthusiastic volunteer shouted, breaking the spell. Let us clean this up, everyone. We've got more work to do. As Lisa slowly pulled away, Jake felt the loss of her warmth like a cool breeze against his skin. He glanced down at the paint splatters on his shirt and the wall, but all he could think about was that moment something bold and beautiful had taken place. Maybe we should get back to it, Jake said, trying to steer his thoughts. Yeah, she replied, adjusting her hair. But Jake? Just so you... No, I'm in this for the long haul now. Whatever happens, I'll be here. Warmth flooded Jake again, a smile creeping back onto his face. But as the day drew to a close with laughter and camaraderie, shadows still loomed large in his mind. They were changing, but what if it wasn't enough? Was there truly a way to navigate this fragile connection that had formed, especially in the chaos that awaited? As night blanketed the site, Jake stood watching the last flickers of laughter and light flow from the center. He knew they were building more than just a structure. They were weaving threads of connection. But still, suspicion niggled at him what would happen when the reality of expectations pressed down upon them. His breath caught at the thought. Could he carry the weight of that storm and keep what they had going? And then, as if fate were listening, a rustling noise drew his attention to the shadows by the entrance, where a figure shuffled forward, silhouetted against the glow of the center S-lights. Jake's heart sank when he recognized the familiar face. It was someone who would complicate everything. Why had they chosen now to return? Jake's heart pounded as he recognized the figure stepping from the shadows. It was Eric, the brother he hadn't seen in years. The air seemed to thicken, tension crackling like electricity between them. Eric's arrival had the potential to disrupt everything Jake thought he'd begun to believe about his life. Jake, Eric called out, his voice serious, almost apologetic. I need to talk to you. Jake's mind raced through memories filled with laughter, but also those pain-stained moments of shouting and resentment. They hadn't departed on good terms, and now Eric was here, returning like an unwelcome chill on a warm summer night. The colors of the murals behind him felt brighter, almost mocking his inner turmoil. Now? Here? Jake replied, his tone chillier than he intended. Around him, volunteers continued to clean up the splattered paint, oblivious to the simmering legacy of family that was unfolding nearby. Please, Eric said, the urgency in his voice cutting through the noise. Just hear me out. Jake hesitated, trying to assess where he stood. Here he was on the verge of something incredible with the community and with Lisa, and now this showdown with his brother felt like an anchor pulling him down. But the look on Eric's face unnerved him. There was an intensity there, a desperate need for reconciliation. Fine, Jake finally said, his voice low. But just for a minute. Drawing away from the bustle of laughter and paintbrushes, Jake led Eric to a quieter part of the parking lot, where the shadows made it easier to hide from prying eyes. Their last confrontation was still too fresh, too painful to fully shake off. But still, he couldn't ignore the kinship that connected them. Blood was blood, and this could end badly if he wasn't careful. Why are you back? Jake asked, crossing his arms defensively, but every fiber of his being was readying for a fight. I came to apologize, Eric said, surprising Jake. Things got way out of hand. I let my ego take over. I should have been there for you, man. Jake scoffed, the wall around his heart thickening. You picked your money over your family. His voice dropped lower. You disappeared without a word. I know I messed up completely. But I've changed. I'm trying to be a better person. Eric stepped closer, sincerity burning in his eyes. I can help. Your project here, it's amazing. Jake narrowed his eyes, struggling against the memory of past grievances. You think just because you've come back you can ride on my success?
It doesn't work that way.
I'm not trying to ride anything, Eric insisted, desperation slicing through his words. I just want a chance to make things right. I miss my brother. Jake felt a flicker of something that resembled hope in his heart, but he quickly squashed it down. I don't know if it's that easy. I'm not asking for easy. Just give me a chance. Eric's voice trembled with emotion, and for a moment, Jake could see the little brother he had chased and played with all those years ago. I'd be honored to help, really. Behind Jake, laughter erupted from the group of volunteers. He turned to look, briefly distracted. Lisa's laugh rang out clear and bright, and for a moment, it felt like the sun broke through the clouds that had shadowed his heart. Turning back to Eric, he felt a swell of conflict rise within him. Let us just say I'm cautiously optimistic. Just as Jake spoke, Lisa stepped around the corner. Hey, Jake. A bunch of us are heading out for dinner. You coming? Her voice danced in the air. She looked between the two brothers, her smile fading slightly with curiosity and concern. Jake opened his mouth to respond, but Eric spoke first. I should leave. We'll talk later. The moment felt suspended, the weight of unspoken words between brothers heavy as lead. Jake watched Eric retreat into the darkening evening, questions swirling in his mind. Was he being foolish for even considering a reconciliation?
Who was that?
Lisa asked, her brow furrowed. Just family. Jake shrugged, but the words rang hollow in his ears. He felt his heart pulse with unease. Eric was back, and everything he thought was solid now felt like shifting sand. He turned to Lisa, the concern in her eyes making his gut twist with indeterminate feelings. Maybe things were about to change in ways he couldn't even begin to understand. And amidst that uncertainty came the question that gnawed at him. Could he really trust his brother again? After all the hurt? Could they rebuild? Or was this just the beginning of a new round of complications? As Jake looked into Lisa's eyes, he realized he needed clarity. And that meant he might have to face more than just his brother's return. He would have to face his past head-on. Let us go to dinner, he said, feeling the weight of the unknown settle firmly on his shoulders. But just as they turned to walk together, another shadow interrupted, and Jake's breath caught in his throat again. It felt like the darkness was closing in, promising that the night could deliver secrets he wasn't ready to confront. What other ghosts from his past awaited him this time? As Jake and Lisa walked into the warm light of the nearby diner, the familiar scent of sizzling burgers mingling with the sweet aroma of freshly baked pies greeted them. The chaos of the parking lot faded, replaced by the sound of laughter and clinking dishes. But even amidst the comfort of the diner, Jake's inner turmoil churned. Everything okay? Lisa asked, her voice cutting through his swirling thoughts. Her eyes searched his face, concern etched deeply into her features. Yeah, he replied, but the word felt flimsy, like a paper bridge over a chasm of uncertainty. He slid into the booth opposite her, the vinyl seat cool against his back, reminding him of the warmth he had just left behind outside. Jake forced a smile, licking his lips to mask the tension that lingered. Just family stuff, you know? Family can be tough. Lisa's expression softened. But it's good you're talking to him. It shows you want to resolve things. Resolve? He scoffed lightly, pushing the menu aside without glancing at it. His appetite vanished like the evening light outside. What if it's not that simple? What if he's just back for the sake of convenience? Lisa reached across the table, gently placing her hand on his. Whatever happened between you two, it doesn't have to define your future. You can set the rules. Jake's heart raced at her words. It was comforting to think that he had control, that he could dictate how this relationship would unfold. But in the depths of his mind lurked that nagging doubt, the fear that he'd end up hurt again. I just worry that diving back in might open old wounds, Jake confessed, looking down at their hands. He could feel the warmth of hers against his skin, grounding him in the moment. What if he'll just break my trust again? I don't know, Eric, but you have to choose what's best for you. She pulled her hand back slightly, studying him thoughtfully. And trust isn't something that's given freely. It has to be earned again. He nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. There were truths in them, reflections of his own struggles. He had spent years building a life away from Eric, a life he believed was better without the weight of that past. But could he stop the winds of change that swept through now? Jake? Lisa's voice, soft yet firm, pulled him from his thoughts. Why don't we plan something? You could invite Eric to join us next time we do something with the volunteers. A casual environment might help ease the tension. The thought struck him, was that a risk worth taking? Could Eric surprise him? Yet, every instinct screamed to build a wall, to protect himself from any further heartache. Maybe, he whispered, uncertainty hanging in the air like smoke before a storm. Suddenly, an unexpected noise from the entrance pulled his attention. The bell on the door jingled, and in stepped a familiar face, one that made his stomach twist. There stood Eric, searching the bustling diner. Jake's heart sank. Of all the places, Jake muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Lisa turned slightly, her eyes growing wide. Should I? Just let me handle it, he replied, fear threading through his veins as he braced himself. Jake watched as Eric scanned the booths, searching for Jake's face, that unmistakable expression of determination on his features. When their eyes met, a flash of regret washed over Eric's countenance, quickly replaced with a resolve. Hey, Jake, Eric called out, weaving through the crowd. The diner around them faded, the chatter and laughter becoming a distant hum. Jake felt time slow, his pulse quickening, uncertainty clouding his judgment. This was at the moment of reckoning, the crossroads where pain and hope intersected. Mind if I join you? Eric asked, a hint of vulnerability in his tone as he reached their booth. Jake glanced at Lisa, who mirrored his apprehension. He could feel the weight of choice hanging over him, and in that charged moment, everything felt uncertain once again. Should he let Eric in? Or was that a step too far? As Eric awaited his answer, Jake could feel the futures unraveling before him, painful, yet possibly transformational. With a deep breath, he prepared to speak, knowing whatever he said next could change everything. Was he really ready to face the truth this time? Jake stared at Eric, his heart racing beneath the weight of years lost, of struggles untold. The diner buzzed with life around them, but all he could focus on was the familiar face before him. Could this really be a step towards healing? Lisa's hand grazed as gently, a calming presence grounding him in the chaos swirling around his thoughts. Sure, Jake finally said, the words feeling heavy yet oddly freeing. There was a burden in letting his brother sit with him, but perhaps they could forge a new path. Eric slid into the booth, his presence shifting the atmosphere. Thanks, man, he said, his voice softer. I didn't want to intrude, but I figured somewhere like this it might be easier. Jake took in the sight of his brother, older, but still undeniably familiar. Each line on Eric's face felt like a chapter of their shared childhood, a reminder of laughter mixed with the pain of estrangement. Yet now, there was something else in his brother's eyes, a flicker of remorse. Can I get you something? Lisa interjected, sensing the tension bubbling beneath the surface. Just coffee, please, Eric replied, a hint of gratitude glimmering in his eyes as he broke the wall of ice. Jake nodded, waiting for Lisa to return to give him and Eric a moment alone. The air was thick with unsaid words. Each breath he took felt monumental, as if they were standing on a precipice. Time stretched as they sat in a silence punctuated only by the conversations of others. How have you been, really? Eric asked, breaking the quiet first. His tone was genuine, almost pleading. Jake inhaled deeply, wrestling with how to answer. I'd like to say I'm great. Things are changing around here. Good, I hope. Eric leaned in, sincerity radiating from him. I heard about the community center. Everyone is talking about it. It's incredible, man. Yeah, we're trying to bring some life back. Jake shrugged, feeling a mixture of pride and unease. But I didn't expect to have to juggle this, between you and my past coming back. Geez, I get it. I didn't mean to jump back in like this, Eric admitted, his gaze dropping to the table. But I need to own up to my mistakes. I know I left and didn't look back and that hurt you. But I've changed. I want to be better, especially for you. Jake felt his chest tighten. Forgiveness, wasn't something he'd thought about freely extending, but here they were, a chance to address their history and wound. You left when I needed you, Eric. Family isn't just blood. It's sticking together through tough times. I know. Eric raised his hands defensively. I've regretted that every day. I was too caught up in my own world. But coming back and seeing you here, doing what you do best, I realized how much I missed you. Eric's voice dropped to a whisper. I've missed us. The genuine emotion hung in the air, and for the first time, Jake could see the weight Eric had been carrying. Was it possible for them to find a way back to each other? Why now? Jake pushed. Why after all this time? Because I can't keep running from who I am and who I've let myself become. I've come to learn that family means everything, something I took for granted. I don't want to lose this chance to make things right, Eric said passionately, eyes searching Jake's. In that moment, Jake's defenses instinctively wavered. It's not just about you making amends. You've got a lot of trust to earn back, Eric. I know, and I'm willing to put in that effort. I want to help with the community center. I want to show people I'm not the same guy who walked away. Jake remained quiet, weighing the options of trust and caution. Part of him wanted to shut this all down. It felt safer to keep that wall up, but another part, the one that desperately craved connection, wondered if this was a chance for renewal. Lisa returned with coffee, her presence a gentle reminder of the warmth surrounding them. Everything okay? She asked innocently. Just catching up, Jake replied, a slight smile tugging at the edge of his mouth. Eric glanced at Lisa, and Jake could see silent calculations passing between them. Would she be on board if he opened this door? Actually, Eric started hesitantly. I'd like to help with the center if you'll let me. I know it won't mean much at first, but I want to give back however I can. Jake blinked, surprise washing over him. This was at the moment where he could choose hope or let the past anchor him. The question twisted in his mind. Could he trust his brother again? What do you think, Jake? Lisa asked gently, sensing the gravity of their conversation. Jake looked between them, torn but intrigued. Could this work? If you want to get involved, then let us start somewhere small. I can't promise it'll be easy, but perhaps we can carve out a new beginning. Eric's face lit with emotion, a bright sparkle that reminded Jake of days long gone. Thank you. That means more than you know. The atmosphere around the booth shifted, lighter somehow, as laughter erupted in the diner once again, hopeful chatter filling the air. Maybe this was a step towards healing, not just for him, but for both of them. As they raised their coffee mugs in an unspoken pledge of partnership, Jake felt a lightness seep into his heart. He still had work to do, boundaries to set and trust to rebuild, yet the mere act of opening up to Eric stirred something within him, possibility. As they took a sip of their coffees, each enjoying the moment, a tentative but real connection beginning to weave its way back together, the road ahead glimmered with promise, bright as the lights in the diner. This time, they would walk forward together and maybe, just maybe, he'd finally find what he had been searching for all along. As the evening light melted into twilight, they began to talk about plans for the community center, laughter once more a warm backdrop wrapping around them. This was the beginning of their story, not just as brothers, but as partners in a healing journey, one filled with uncertainty, but also undeniable hope. And it was enough for now. Now more than ever, Jake felt a sense of peace embraced by the glow of friendship and family, feeling assured that even the fragile lines drawn between love and trust could be redrawn anew. And as they chatted about the future, one thought crystallized in his mind: life was about taking chances, facing fears head-on, and opening your heart to those who truly mattered. Together, they could create more than just a community, they could create a family. Don't miss this transformation, this story of hope and redemption. If you want to follow more incredible journeys, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Share your reactions and feelings about this ending in the comments below. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support makes all the difference.